we're filled with the use cases of language right now, language AI, which is really exciting, but we underappreciate how perceptual and physical our living and working experiences are.
AI is moving fast. ROI expectations are rising, and leaders everywhere are racing to figure out what it actually takes to build an AI-ready organization. To help us understand and make sense of this moment, I'm joined by two people at the very center of this conversation globally, Dr. Fei-Fei Li and Dylan Bolden. Many people call Dr. Li the godmother of AI, and for good reason. She created ImageNet, which is the database that literally taught computers to see. That breakthrough made possible everything from Google Lens to self-driving cars. And today, as co-founder and CEO of World Labs, she's building large world models, AI that doesn't just process data, but understands and navigates the physical world around us. And Dylan Bolden has spent over 2 decades helping the world's most complex organizations figure out what's next. He's managing director and senior partner at BCG, and in that role, he leads the firm's global thinking on AI and its impact on business. Dr. Li, Dylan, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You used to be the chief AI scientist at Google Cloud at one point. During that time, was there any one moment that made you realize that spatial intelligence was the future? Obviously, at this point, we know that. But back then,
The short answer is yes. So I became Google chief scientist in 2017, but that was already 17 years into my career as an AI scientist. It's been my life's work thinking about vision, perception, robotic learning. At Google Cloud, what did change me is that I get to work with all the vertical industries, from hospitals to financial services, from energy to agriculture, and so much of those needs were physical. For example, in financial services, insurance damage assessment or appraisal is very visual. In transportation, whether we're talking about driving or shipping or all those, is very visual and perceptual. Or agriculture, weeds, understanding weeds and picking out weeds, or harvesting apples, or counting salmons of certain size. All of these are extremely visual spatial. So in our world, I know that we're filled with the use cases of language right now, language AI, which is really exciting, but we underappreciate how perceptual and physical our living and working experiences are.
I think about businesses that require physical space, retail, travel, industries, hospitality. In those environments, when we have AI that can perceive space, that can see space, which of those business models breaks first?
Think about a retailer that can better in real time understand based on how the customer experiences the store, where inventory needs to be. But I think honestly, the first place to break is in labor, figuring out where's the best place to put labor to get the most out of it within a store, where at certain times a day, do I put people certain parts of the operation clear, with them on a restaurant? Do I put them next to the front of the store? Do I put them in the back? So really good observation around how consumers experience the store, I think gets you to better decisions around how to deploy labor. So that's one example, but I'm very interested to hear
Dr. Li?
your perspective here.
So there's a lot of future opportunities. But yes, as the technology matures, I agree with Dylan. We don't really know what's around in our physical space. We don't have a easy way to express our imagination into a potential physical space if we're talking about storytelling or design or optimizing for office space or designing, hospitality environments or live events or many of these. So I think as this technology matures, as we push the frontier of this technology, we will create world models that can reconstruct physical space, can understand what's in this physical space, can predict the next state of this physical space, can translate imagination into digital expression of the physical space. All this will empower many business use cases.
One of the headlines that's dominating almost every newspaper is about AI-related layoffs. And while that is true, there's been a counter story that isn't getting enough attention, and that some of the earliest actors are now rehiring people because they realize, wait a minute, we let people go too soon. Dr. Li, what does the evidence say about what happens when you strip out humans from AI?
Duarte, this is a very, very complex topic. It's complex first, AI is still new, so the whole labor market impact is still unsettled. There's a lot to be played out. You know, are we really seeing a shift of labor market? Is some pockets of this too fast, too slow? We don't know yet. It's one thing is for sure, it's changing. Technology changes labor market. Technology changes workflows. That's one aspect. Another aspect is that what's our relationship with this technology? How much is collaborative? How much does AI take over certain tasks? How much is should we use AI and human intertwine in the loop together? Some of the most seasoned and expert software engineers find the current tools, whether you're talking about Cursor, Claude Code, Codex, or these tools, actually very empowering. That it can superpower and speed up their work when they can use it in a very sophisticated way. In the meantime, the more junior level software engineers are still catching up. It's the level of empowerment, we're not seeing it as much in the junior level as the senior level.
There's always a question of layoffs versus upskilling your talent. And BCG's AI Radar says about 75% of CEOs are actually pushing to upskill. Is that something that there's a hard business case for, or is that just idealism?
No, I think it's just math. I think what's interesting is when that study came out, I think it was counterintuitive to some people. I think for some CEOs, some CEOs who aren't really familiar with AI instantly think about replacing humans. But I think the ones that get it, they realize that, look, the one thing that AI doesn't have is context. It doesn't have human judgment. And so the better business decision is actually to upskill your people and to make sure that if you're in a supply chain function or you're in a finance function, somebody's been in the supply chain role for 15 years. That's 15 years of institutional knowledge of context around the business. And so figuring out ways to upskill that person to actually get them to work with AI is a much better business decision.
So Dylan, when we look at the way corporate executives are leading the change towards AI adoption and transformation, what advice do you give them to do so compassionately? Is that even possible?
So I think for CEOs, the ones that I've seen that have led well here are ones that sort of start with, what's going to change, what do they think is next, and then how they think the role is going to change. And I think if you're honest, but then you present an optimistic future of how humans work with AI and how the role will shift over time, I think you can actually you can lead in a compassionate way and actually drive change much more effectively.
BCG's AI Radar puts only about 15% of CEOs in that trailblazing category. What do the 85% need to do to get to that point?
For the 85%, it's actually not about bigger budgets and more money. Interestingly, it's about actually getting more specific, picking the 3 or 4 places where you really think you can make a difference in the business and leaning in there, getting outside of the pilots and the labs and actually getting into the business and making it happen and putting it in the plan. So there's definitely room for the 85% to catch up, but they got to move quick because the trailblazers are really accelerating.
Dr. Li, when I look at Dylan's data, I can see that it puts CEOs firmly in the driver's seat on AI. So from your perspective, what does real AI leadership require at the top of an organization?
Yeah, I do agree with Dylan on this because look, AI is extremely transformative technology. It's also extremely horizontal from you know, operational optimization to delivering best product and customer experiences to business intelligence to optimizing daily work. It can play many roles. So for the top of the company, for CEOs, I think knowing this technology, knowing the strategic opportunities and risks of this technology, and being staying on top of this really rapid moving landscape is actually very critical at this moment.
Thank you so much, Dylan Bolden and Dr. Fei-Fei Li.
Thank you.
Thank you.